Greetings from the other side of the pond, as it were.
And I'm on the other side of the pond to you, Mike.
And all me Tim Tams have gone, or whatever they're called. Tam Tims?
Tim Tams.
Tim Tams, they're all gone, all finished.
For people who don't know, I sent over to Mike for Christmas, I sent him over some Tim Tams. They're chocolate biscuits that they make here in Australia. I sent him 3 boxes of them, and he's just saying that they're all gone. In other words, you want more. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Best not, Linda. Best not.
They have about 6 different varieties of them. So I just thought I'd just give you like the 3 that I like.
Yeah.
They have a double chocolate one, and you put them in your coffee, and they just melt in your coffee, and oh my God.
Yeah.
They're so nice. They're chocolate biscuits. Yum. And they're coated in chocolate. For people who don't know what Tim Tams are. Yeah. When they came out in the 1980s, it was actually Kate Blanchett, when she was a teenager. She was the one on the ad with the Tim Tams. She's got like a genie there, and he says, "What do you want?" She says, I wish for an unlimited box of Tim Tams. So the box just never runs out.
Right.
Yeah, that was Kate Blanchett back in the 80s, did that commercial.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
She's an Aussie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mike, as I was just telling you off air, I'm not going to be here for the next 2 weeks. I need to take some time to virtually just rehash over some things that are being neglected. You know, my daughter, I have not spoken to her now for 3 days, and it's hurting me that I'm neglecting her, because like she's doing her homework right now, but I like sitting there with her, so we go through it, because I've got to admit, Tashi's got what's called short-term memory loss. So I've always known this about her, and one of the things that she's got. So every time I see her after school, I've got to say to her things like, "What did you do first period? Then where did you go? Where did you go for second period?" And she looks up and and I say, "Well, what did you have for dinner last night?" And so sometimes, it's a big push for her. So with her, it's a lot of note taking and remembering that way.
Yet she's still a genius.
Yeah. They've tested her a few times with her IQ, and she's off the grid, like me. I'm off the grid, she's off the grid. So, and then today she started stuttering, and I said, well, that's another thing that you've always done. You're also dyslexic, which is what they call the brainiac's disease, because I'm dyslexic and ambidextrous. Do the math there with how much fun I have when I'm driving. Go right! And I'm pointing to the left,
Yeah.
Well, so it's fun. It's fun.
No. Yes.
Life with me can be interesting. So, I'll do a video that I want to put on YouTube, and I get halfway through it, and I'll call the sky purple, because I get purple, blue and yellow, I get confused. Purple and orange, I get confused. So I always say purple and when it's orange, and if I look at the sky, I'll say it's yellow. So instead of blue. So I always get the blue and yellow particularly get confused. But I see blue, but I just call it yellow because that's my brain being dyslexic. It's fun. But, getting back on track, I do have to take 2 weeks off. It's, because I've just got so many emails and, the world's gone mad. And I'll go with him. Mike, the world has gone mad. So many people now I know are getting sick, and they're wondering why. I know why, but they just don't want to piece it together. There's a big push here now in Australia where they're saying we have had the lowest deaths in 20 years, but then you look at the Bureau of Statistics and there's actually a 17% increase,
Well, I saw a beautiful thing the other day. It was an interview with the Serb tennis player who was banned in Australia because he wouldn't take a medical intervention. And the question was asked him, you have the opportunity to be the world's greatest tennis player. But because of your decision, you're banned from Wimbledon, banned from this, banned from that. Does it not bother you? And he said, no. And it was so beautiful what he said, because he said, the right to stick what I want in my body takes precedent over anything. And actually, he's just won just about everything he's been in at the moment.
I watched it. I watched it live the other night when he won.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing. Whoops. Yep. Don't worry. You're just a little bit lagging tonight.
Okay.
The funniest thing,
I haven't touched the drop, Linda.
Hey.
I haven't touched the drop. Go on.
All right. Let's just get back to Novak. Last year, when he got deported, the very next day on our news, the US Open was first thing on the news. This guy won, and it was like a 5-minute show on him getting his trophy and everything. This year, not a mention of it at all in the first 15 minutes, because I don't watch the news, so I only watch the first 15 minutes to say, just in case they wanted to mention that someone won the Australian Open, because we are Australia. But no, it wasn't mentioned at all in the news the day after he won it. And I was up, it finished at about, was it 10 or 11? I can't remember because it was late. But I watched it. My daughter watched it. I said, darling, this is history in the making, because look where he was last year. Everyone was poo-pooing him. And now because he stood firm, which everybody had that choice to stand firm, but now we can't judge who people did what. It's up to them to heal themselves as to why they did what they did, And I'm glad that I chose the way I did. Was it right? I don't know. Was it wrong? I don't know. But ultimately,
but it was right for you.
Well, darling, I haven't been sick in 4 years. I haven't had a head cold in 4 years. Tashi hasn't been sick in 4 years. So we can't say during the last 2 years, because it's been like 4 years since we've been really sick, So funny that everybody else I know is really sick at this point. It's funny. But ultimately, we've got to stay true to our own integrity. And that's what everybody is now waking up to. If you feel now that you've made a wrong mistake, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I'm never going to say I'm perfect. But it's when we sit there and we work it out and we say, well, at that time I had no other option, and I only did what I could do. And now I'm older, I'm wiser, I know other options are out there. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. And that is when we move forward. That is when we open up to the possibilities of who we want to be in our future. And it's also when we can heal our past and accept love within our heart to be compassionate for others who chose poorly as well. So there's no judgment.
No.
It's just,
it is what it is.
We all make boo-boos, We all make the boo-boos. I've made heaps of boo-boos in my life. But ultimately, it's whether you identify that you've made a boo-boo and you want to be a better person in the future. That's the key. That's how we heal. That's how we, when we go to our life review, when we're standing there and we have to judge ourselves, why did you do that thing? There's going to be a lot of people standing there saying, oh, man, I screwed up. So start healing it now, so then we don't have those experiences up there. Because this is karma. And, you look at people who are intentionally doing things that we wouldn't agree with. I'm not going to say wrong, but things that we wouldn't agree with. And they know the repercussions and the consequences of what's going on there, and I dare say reactions to what's going on there. How are they going to feel the day that they stand there? because they have to heal every single person that was affected. And that is going to be worthy to watch. You know, I wish I could sit there, but Life Review is so private because it's not about anybody else. It's just what we do. But ultimately, you know, I look at someone like Gil Bates, change the initials. He was at the Open the other night.
Yeah.
He's in Australia. Why was he at the tennis? You never see Bill Gates out in the open because he's such a target. You never see, there is not one photo of him with an American president. So why was he here having photo shops, with photo opportunities with our Prime Minister? What's going on? And the big question is not what he was doing here. It's what will he be doing here?
Well, why
because
was
he hasn't left yet.
No.
And I don't think he's going to leave for at least another 3 months because, as we know, the economy is about to crash. And if things go radiating, you certainly don't want to be in those drop zones,
right?
You know, because that's what I'm seeing in the next couple of months, you know. So I send light and love to everybody, and I just say at the end of the day, look out for who you are. Look after number one and number two, the most important person to you as well.
Yeah.
And don't get so consumed in what is going on around us, because ultimately they thrive on our energy. And the quote that I've been sending out to everyone at this point, I love this quote because it was from her the other day. Do not fear what they do, for it is in that fear that they will win.
Yeah.
So we can't fear because they're thriving on our fear. So the more we fear, the more they're winning.
Yeah.
So we can't fear it. So man up, stand up and say, I've made a mistake and I'm not going to let that occur again, you know? And then that's how we win this war, because we're in a war. I've been telling people for 3 years we're in a war. And they say, oh, no, just because I've got to stay home and I can't leave the house for another 2 weeks, that's not a war, Linda. And I said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because I got told this in 2001, you know? Wow. So tonight, let's just get into it. Have we got Katarina tonight?
Yeah. Let's run straight over.
Let's go and have a look at what she has to say tonight.
Yeah.
We'll start it off with a member from Motley Crue. His name is Vince Neil, and his is a very tragic haunting. He lost his daughter Skylar at a very young age to a very serious disease. And what happened is a time after her passing, while he was feeling obviously very strong in the throes of grief, he had what some might call a dream or a visitation, but he, for 3 evenings in a row, had time with his departed daughter. They would color one night, another night they played with dolls, another night with like a paper mache kind of art project. And his daughter turned to him and said, I won't be coming back until I finish school. That's what Jesus told me, that I won't be coming back to visit you until I'm done with school. And sure enough, he hadn't seen his daughter since. Yes, and the TV show Angel as well. What happened with her was she moved into a house, and there was one room in particular that her dog didn't want to go into, just refused to step foot in this one room. And as it turns out, she goes in there one day and she hears a doll speaking and said, thanks for the hug. And she was quite surprised because this doll only speaks if it's squeezed. And it turns out what happened, what happened was this house is by a pond, and it turns out a child had actually drowned in this pond. And even his father, you know, this was years later, had passed on, and it seems like they had trouble connecting. You know, the father was trying to help. He was very sad, and, you know, he couldn't himself help his son, like, move on, perhaps. But yeah, she believes that the little boy, you know, squeezed the doll to make it talk.
Finally, Jonathan Bennett. Is it Jonathan Bennett?
Yes, he was in Mean Girls and Hallmark movie recently. His story is rather interesting too. He has a haunted house on a block. The murder didn't happen in his home, but on his block. I believe it was in the 50s. An actress about 19 years old was lured under false pretenses. A man claiming to be a photographer was really a murderer, and he tragically killed this lady. Her first name was Judy, and I guess maybe because Jonathan, also being an actor and being quite a warm person and trusting person, she would come in and, kind of like what we were saying before, it could be creepy. She really meant him no harm, but what she would do is watch over him in his house, and she would, you know, make her presence known by, he had a camera and buzzer placed by a gate. The gate was gone, but still the camera and buzzer were there, but they weren't hooked up to anything, so they shouldn't have worked. But he would always hear, like, the camera go off with that fuzzy sound and the buzzer, and there would never be anybody there. And again, it wasn't even hooked up to any electricity. And he had a medium come in, and she, you know, deciphered that it was this girl who, you know, hadn't crossed and meant him no harm. She was just watching over him. Stay curious, my friends.
So the full conversation I'll put up later today on my YouTube channel. And so you can hear everything that kind of went on, the banter and so on and so forth. So anyway, there you are. So
funny thing, Mike.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago, before I got inundated with all this work I've got, I actually did watch on Netflix. There's a show called The Dirt.
Right.
And it's about Motley Crue. And I will tell people, if you go watch it, please know it's X-rated, okay? Not for kids at all, okay? Because it's Motley Crue, hello. And Vince Neil, who lost his daughter, that's actually in this show, where he is so busy going out touring, and he ends up getting to the hospital like 2 days before she died. You know, it's a really horrible event that he went through. You know, I would hate to think what happened there. You know, I can't imagine the pain knowing that you're out, and, you know, fair enough, they live the drugs, rock and roll, and the girls' lifestyle, but, you know, with all the groupies and stuff, but you still have your heart and your home.
Of course.
And, you know, and I could imagine the trauma that guy just went through, knowing that he couldn't be there for his wife and his daughter when she was that sick. You know, I mean, terrible.
We actually showed that story over a year ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a bittersweet story, because he had the opportunity to see his daughter a few more times before she said, well, this is the last time until we meet again, so to speak. So he, like many people who are blessed, is the way I would say it, to be by the side of their loved ones when they pass, or when you know when your loved one is dying, you get to put past wrongs right. This is a kind of blessing for him, and for people who experience that type of thing I just mentioned, because it helps you get on with life. Rock star or no rock star, you know, you have emotions, and some of them are sensitive, even though they don't give off they're sensitive in this public image that they have. But it was a good story.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm open to watch anything on TV. You know, I don't have time anymore for movies because to me they're shallow. I look for the depth, so I like watching all my documentaries. And when I saw the one on Motley Crue, why not educate myself on who they were or are, I should say. You know, I didn't follow them back in the 80s when they were really popular. You know, but you know how they talk about when the lead well, who was it? The guitarist got involved with Heather Locklear, and some other people in there. That was just a nice little cohesive putting it all the pieces together here in the media. You know? Yeah. There you go. Alrighty, so where are we going over to next?
We're going to have a look at The Ghost in the Mirror. We've seen this one before, many moons ago. I found out something quite interesting about this that I'll tell you about. And also the rickshaw poltergeist. Let's have a look at these and see what you all think of this.
So I'm asking, he knows. I'm going to move back. Will you do it? I'm looking at your eyes. Look, he's doing the opposite to me. This is what he does to me. Hey, can I tip your phone? There? Yeah, there's something else in there as well. Looks like a girl. There is a girl in there, and we're going to enlarge her. There he is. Hiya. So I'm going to step forward. Oh, no, there you go. Is he wearing a hat? Yes. No. Yes, he's wearing a hat. Hook off. Yes, he's wearing a straw hat. Look. There he is. That's my man. Hey, there you can see his nose and the hat, around the rim of the hat and everything. Yes. Yeah. There you are. Hello, mate. Turn around. Come on, look at us. Look at her going again. Can you see her? That looks like a beautiful young child, doesn't it? Now, I sort of see her. I can see him, all right. I can't. Well, I've seen a woman a minute. Hello. Now he's going to. Look at him move back. Come on, come out. I'm going to step forward. Are you going to do the opposite again? Look, I knew he would. That's it. Come on, out. And there's nothing there. You can't accuse anyone else. Hey.
Possessed rickshaw. This last clip is a bit different and happened in front of a crowd of people inside a market thought to be in Indonesia. It's been labelled Bekag Kesurupan, translated to the possessed rickshaw. The footage caused a bit of a stir when it first appeared on Instagram in May 2017, although the incident is thought to have happened in 2015. Not much is known about the video, but as you're about to see, it was witnessed by many people. Take a look. There seems to be no explanation for the driverless and motorless cart to spin so erratically throughout the market, destroying shelves and produce as it crashes back and forth within the aisle. The violent display is witnessed by the gathered crowd, but despite this, we can find very little information about the event. If it is a poltergeist, it is extremely rare footage, and if any of you have any further information on the event, we would love to hear in the comments.
So, there you are. I mean, let's look at the mirror first. If I can pull this up, if it will go up there, as you can see, we can kind of see it's even looking like a helmet with a strap, that type of thing. But the problem that I kind of had with this one, at first when we showed this years ago, it looked real, but as the camera moves one way, the image pulls back, and when she moves the camera the other way, the image moves forward, and it does it consistently. So I'm wondering if this is just a trick of light.
I'm actually on the way. You know, when we first saw it, like a year ago, you know, because as you look at it, it looks like a helmet and is looking off to the right or whatever side.
Yeah.
But the thing that I don't like about this mic is you've got the mirror. You can see inside, but you can't see what is reflecting next to that, because the camera has obviously got the light source that you can see in the reflection, but you don't know if there's somebody there doing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, paranormal things happen in many different ways, and we've got to be able to judge it all without making any definitive answers about it, because nobody knows for sure what is paranormal or not unless you're there and you capture it and you say there's no other way that this could have happened.
Right.
You know, that empirical evidence of personal experience at the time. So I'd like to, you know, it's a pity that you could hear all the voices in the background. So they're obviously all standing there looking into the mirror, but you can't see their reflection. So where were they? You know, who could have been? You know, there could have been somebody there with this little thing, and they're just sticking it into the mirror frame. You know, how do you know? How do you know?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I think this was an official ghost hunt tour in Ireland, but you don't know. It's just that what I noticed was there was exact movement. Because when the camera moved one way, the image pulled back, and when it moved the other way, the image stuck out, and it was too consistent.
Yeah, that's right. That's really the giveaway.
Yeah,
that it's not real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
however, the next footage, that one's intriguing me.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
now,
unless there's a motor in there somewhere, which I really couldn't see.
Yeah.
But there you are. Yeah.
I'm actually thinking some sort of mirror, or, you know, I was watching this magician, and what he does is he gets a mobile phone and he puts it next to other mobile phones, and they all start doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's electromagnetic vibration.
Yeah.
So how do we know? Because that rickshaw has got a lot of metal in it. How do you know it hasn't been compromised in some way where it is creating that spiral turn like a magician's trick, doing what they do with their mobile phones, making them spin on the tables, you know? Because as soon as I saw it, I thought, wow, that's one big mobile phone, you know?
Yeah.
How do we know, you know?
Yeah.
So and then you've got to ask yourself, if this was paranormal, why would a ghost do that for?
Yeah. Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Because I always put myself into the feet of the ghost, or the perspective of the ghost. Why would a ghost do that for? Why would they swim it all around where it's knocking everything else, you know, all that food onto the ground?
Yeah.
Like, who would do that? Seriously. Unless you were like, you know, teenage kid thinking it was really cool. Oh, yeah, let's just throw all this food on the ground. Anyone past kid age would think, no, we're more responsible than that. Don't waste food.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So what's the reason of the ghost if it was real? That's what I'd like to know. Because that's the question I want to ask.
When I look at that rickshaw spinning round and round like that, this might sound a little bit strange, but it didn't feel like it was angry. It felt like it was just having fun.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
You know, so it could have been a kid.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Because I've looked at that footage a couple of times, just trying to see if there was any fluctuation, missed evidence to show that there was some sort of interaction there with the, what is it, a rickshaw?
Rickshaw, yeah.
The more I think about it, I've got to agree with Rebecca, I think it was magnetic.
Mm.
We can't, we've got to go there, Mike. We are off our magnetic poles. We are moving. And, they can try and say it's climate change, thanks, Greta, or you like. But it is man-made while we're off our poles.
Yeah.
You can't do all the stuff that they're doing, like all the tunnels and the mining and, all those holes that they're now creating in the world, and it's not going to affect something, And as somebody said to me once, oh, well, you don't realise we only go down about 5 miles anyway. I don't believe that. I don't believe for a second that they've only gone to 5 miles deep. I reckon they've gone 500 miles deep, 1,000 or 2,000 miles deep to see what's down there. And, I know from my travelling around the world, it's 48,000 kilometres around, which means it's about 12 or so kilometres, 12,000 kilometres straight through. Right. So if they're, so the core is like 6,000, 7,000 kilometres down. So I reckon they've gone down a couple of thousand kilometres to know what's down there. And if they're sucking anything out from down there, they're creating holes.
Yeah, of course.
They're leaving voids down there, like caverns, that are affecting our magnetic pull.
Yeah.
How do you know? Yeah. The old triangle, what is it, the Bermuda Triangle type stuff.
Yeah.
That could possibly. And as Sari says, the dog didn't seem too scared.
No.
Dogs and cats are highly intuitive.
Yeah.
So, it may have been hearing something, because dogs do hear in ultra high pitches.
Yeah.
So how do you know that dog could have been hearing a kid laughing or giggling or something at that point?
Yeah.
But I don't think so, because it wasn't interacting like it was listening. It was more watching that rickshaw going around rather than watching somebody doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd been interesting.
Interesting conversation. Interesting.
It'd been
footage.
Interesting to see it from its stationary position.
Yeah.
And then we would know, perhaps like this rickshaw is battery powered and,
We've got to go there. We've got to go there. How did it start rotating? Because that wasn't in the footage.
No.
Did it just start doing that one day, or did? Yeah, because I'm starting to think here somebody's pushed it on its balance to make it go around. Like the old coin.
Yeah.
You get a coin and flip it, and it goes woo, and then it falls down, right? I reckon that was like that. That's what I reckon. So they've balanced it and they've pushed it so it's going around by itself. That's actually, magnetic. That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, 2 unsolved mysteries.
Very, very footage. Yeah, very, very interesting footage.
Let's move
so
on
where are we
to
going? Sorry? Yeah.
Dorothy's reincarnation. A very, very beautiful reincarnation for this lady. Very deep indeed. And I can only imagine the lengths she went to go back home. Let's put it this way. Let's hear what she has to say.
Venturate High Priestess. Dorothy Louise Eady was born in London in 1904. At the age of 3, fell down a flight of stairs and seriously injured herself, where doctors initially declared her dead. However, she made an amazing recovery and then started exhibiting strange behaviours and asked that she be brought home and started to speak in a foreign language. At Sunday school, she started comparing Christianity with the ancient Egyptian religion and was expelled from a Dalit girls' school after she refused to sing a hymn calling on God to curse Egyptians. One day, her parents took her to the British Museum and whilst looking at a photograph in one of the exhibit rooms, cried out, "There is my home, but where are the trees and the gardens?" What Dorothy was observing was a temple of Seti I, the second pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of Egypt, around 1290 BC. She then ran about the halls of the Egyptian rooms, kissing the statue's feet. After the first trip, she would regularly visit the British Museum, where she met a man by the name of E.A. Wallace Budge, who encouraged her in the study of hieroglyphs. After leaving school at 16, Edie became a part-time student at Plymouth Art School and began to collect Egyptian antiquities. In 1931, she moved to Egypt, and on arriving, she kissed the ground and announced she'd come home to stay. She married a teacher of English by the name of Iman Abdel Magwid. She would later report nighttime visitations by an apparition of Hor-Ra, who told her of a previous life as a young woman in ancient Egypt called Bentrishit, who had reincarnated in the person of Dorothy Eady. Bentrishit's mother sold vegetables and her father was a soldier during the reign of Seti I between 1290 BC to 1279 BC. At the age of 3, her mother died and she was sent to the temple of Kom el Sultan and was brought up to be a priestess. One day Seti I visited her where they became lovers, and when she became pregnant she told the high priest who the father was. The high priest told her that she'd committed a serious offence where she committed suicide rather than face trial. In 1935, and 2 years after her marriage ended to Iman Abdul Magwin, Dorothy went to live in Nazlat al-Saman, near the Giza pyramids, and met archaeologist Salim Hassan of the Department of Antiquities. He employed her as a secretary and draftswoman, and was the department's first female employee to Hassan, and became valuable to other Egyptian scholars. Under her own name, she wrote articles and books, and befriended many of the famous Egyptologists of the era. During this time, she prayed and made frequent offerings to the gods of ancient Egypt, and would often spend the night in the Great Pyramid. On the 3rd of March 1956, aged 52, she moved to Arabet Abydos, where she was given the name Seti, and made regular visits to the temple of Seti, and had shown advanced knowledge of the temple. The chief inspector from the Antiquities Department decided to test her knowledge and asked her to stand at particular wall paintings in complete darkness, where she was instructed to identify them based on her prior knowledge as a temple priestess. She completed the task successfully, even though the painting locations had not yet been published at the time. For Dorothy, the Temple of Seti was a place of peace and security, and felt watched over by the ancient Egyptian gods. Dorothy Eady, or Seti as she was now known, claimed that in her past life as Bentrishit, the temple had a garden where she'd first met Seti I. These were the same gardens that she described as a young girl living in London that were not believed by her parents. While she was living in Abydos, the gardens she had described in her previous life as a temple priestess was discovered by excavators, and the garden matched her descriptions. Dorothy turned one of the temple rooms into a personal office and described the Temple of Seti as like entering a time machine where the past becomes the present and the modern mind has difficulty understanding a world in which magic is accepted. Dorothy wrote and detailed many modern practices from ancient times in short articles written between 1969 and 1975 and were edited and published. At the age of 60 in 1964, she began work as a part-time consultant for the Antiquities Department, guiding tourists around the Temple of Seti and explaining the symbolism of the painted wall scenes. On the 21st of April 1981, Dorothy Eady, or Seti, died in Abydos and was buried in an unmarked grave facing the west in the desert outside a Coptic cemetery.
Wasn't a very fitting ending to a career, buried in an unmarked grave. Rebecca says, reminds me of my grandmother Athena. She painted pictures at a young age and made declarations which were later found to be true. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
And it's only when we go out and, we have these images or we know things, and it's only when we actually get the opportunity to go and investigate it and find out if it's true. That's the goosebump stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think some of these reincarnation stories, they're really equally as powerful as the NDE stories. We was talking about NDE stories off air, and I personally think that reincarnation are going to be the new NDE, the big thing that people want to know about.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know, Mike. Yeah. Because the verified reincarnation ones, past life, we want to know that we've lived before, because that gives us that possibility that we will live again. And that's why people are so interested in past lives.
Yeah.
So, I've had my past lives done, and it explains a lot why I'm like the way I am. And but it's no joke. It's not something like a game that you buy from your local department store.
No.
Having a past life can be very traumatic. I witnessed my own death 3 times in my past lives, and it was horrible. It can lead to heart attacks because we get so involved with it. So it's not to be taken lightly.
No.
But I'm just letting anybody else that watches this know. But, the more we put theories out there and the more that we suggest possibilities that are backed up by evidence like this story, then it leads us into those unknown waters of possibilities and future theories on religion and spirituality. And I firmly believe that there's a new term coming out in the next few years. It won't be spirituality anymore. It'll be humanism, because it's us. It'll be something like humanism, and just where we don't have to rely on others like in a religious setting. We don't have to rely on God, archangels, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, etc. We look within ourselves and our own humanity to create what we want. And so, spiritualism, why do we still call it spirit? It's our own spirit. It's our own consciousness. It's us.
Well, we had this question in the Jeanne d'Arc spiritual report yesterday about praying to Archangel Michael and Uriel for help and support and to get things done. And, the answer come back very quickly, which was everything that you've got is within yourself. By all means, pray for assistance. But they're not going to be the ones that save you. It's going to be from us. And the more we find, let's say, the universe from within ourselves, the healing ability from within ourselves, the love frequency within ourselves, the more it can align with the let's say the etherical beings, and they're able to assist us. But they're not going to do a Harry Potter with Expelliarmus, and that's the end of it. Prayer really is quite powerful in asking for assistance, but if we don't take any action ourselves, then nothing is going to get done. Not because they're going to say, well, they're not doing anything, why should I? It's just that there's no frequency match. And that's right. To me
Tesla, what did he say? 3 words: frequency, currency, energy. You align all 3 together and anything is possible. He made it happen 100 years ago. And he made the big fatal mistake by being non-egotistical about it.
And trying to get support from JP Morgan, who swiftly ripped him off. But there you are. And that's why we have to pay for electricity today.
I love it when I get my surveys from my local energy provider. They say, how was our service today? 0 out of 10. Did you get value for money? 0 out of 10. What can we do to improve our service? Make it free, like it is natural product that you are selling to us, like air. They don't like getting. Do you want someone from our company to ring you? Yes, but they never do.
No.
Funny that way. I do their survey because every 3 months I get a survey with mine. How did we go? And I tell them clearly, you suck. Ring me, please. Talk to me about it. And they never do because they know I'm right. Electricity is natural.
Let's go on. Let's move on as we're swiftly running out of time. Another story from a while back, one of the first shows. This is the visitation of this lady's dead father. I really hate saying that word, dead father. Maybe I should say the visitation of her father, as dead is understood. So, and I'm sure he'll say, well, actually, you're more dead than me. Once you get over to this side, you'll know what I mean. But anyway, let's run this, see what people feel about this one. Here we go.
Many of the viewer emails you send us involve dreams. Some of them are comforting, some are nightmares. One viewer named Diane Hamilton wrote us of a strange and haunting dream about a sequence of 4 numbers, 5005.
The last dream I had was about him being in the graveyard and setting up a banquet table, like as if he was preparing for some kind of celebration. I just couldn't understand the dream. I couldn't make it out.
When Diane Hamilton was only 16 years old, her father died from a sudden heart attack.
I was totally devastated. I never thought he would die so young.
Every so often, Diane's father would appear in her dreams, but the family never took these visions seriously.
My mother said to her, well, the next time you have a dream about your father, ask him to give you some numbers.
You know, ask him for the lottery numbers. We can play them. Maybe we could become millionaires.
Then, in the summer of 1998, 20 years after her father passed away, Diane had a bizarre and unsettling dream that was impossible to ignore. In the dream, Diane was in a cemetery. She saw a tall gravestone with a statue of the Virgin Mary. Nearby, her father was setting up a banquet table. But whom was he planning to entertain? What did it all mean?
And he was setting up what looked like food and flowers. And I kept saying, what are you doing? This doesn't make sense. You know, why are you in a graveyard celebrating?
Diane's father wouldn't answer her questions. It was then that she remembered her mother's suggestion.
I just said, can you show me some numbers? My mom wants me to ask you to show me some numbers, which is what he did. He showed me 5005.
When Diane's mother heard about the dream the next day, she was convinced the numbers were the secret to a winning lottery ticket.
So she said, well, make sure you play those numbers and have, you know, call your brother and your sister and make sure everybody plays those numbers.
Diane's entire family started playing the lottery, repeatedly using the numbers 5005. But luck was never on their side.
We played them for a month or so, and none of them ever came out. So eventually we all stopped playing them.
The mystery remained. What did Diane's dream mean? What was her father trying to tell her with these seemingly random numbers? The family couldn't dwell on the enigma for long. 6 months later, Diane's mother unexpectedly died.
There wasn't a day that went by that I didn't talk to my mother or be with her. So when she passed away, I was very devastated.
One morning, several weeks after the funeral, Diane felt a strong desire to visit her mother's grave. It was located 45 minutes away from where her father was buried.
I kept saying no, maybe I shouldn't because I had taken time off from work because of her death. But something just kept telling me no, go, go, go.
The cemetery was so large that as Diane drove onto the grounds, she had trouble remembering the exact location of her mother's grave. She asked a cemetery employee for directions to the gravesite.
She wrote the number, the row number, and the grave number for me on a piece of paper. And without looking at the paper, I just got back in the car and started driving in the direction where she was pointing to.
Diane drove a short distance. As she approached the location of her mother's grave, it all looked familiar. As Diane climbed out of her car, she looked at the piece of paper for the very first time. What she saw stopped her in her tracks.
The number on the paper was row 50, grave 5, so the number 5005 was written on the paper.
To Diane's amazement, she realized the number her father had given her was the exact plot location of her mother's grave. Strangely, just like in her dream, a few feet away stood a tall gravestone, one that held a statue of the Virgin Mary.
So I knew at that point when I looked around that this was the graveyard that I saw him in my dream.
At last, the mystery surrounding the numbers 5005 was solved. Diane was certain that her father had been trying to communicate with her from beyond the grave.
I think that he was just trying to warn me that there was going to be a death and probably something that would devastate me.
I think that he was trying to tell Diane that, so maybe he could prepare us all a little bit better than we were.
Diane's eerie dream might seem alarming, but she says she finds comfort in her father's visitations.
I'm his daughter, he's watching out for me, and he's gonna warn me of different events, and I'm thankful for that. It's not
I tell you what, Linda, you know what I find alarming? Those hairstyles back in the day.
You don't want to know what I was like in the 80s, darling.
That is one hell of a hairstyle, let me tell you.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm hearing you, honey. Yep, you don't want to know what my formal was like at high school.
Yeah.
Oh, the photos from 1983.
Well,
we can joke about it though all we like, but you know, who cares what people look like ultimately? I don't judge what people look like. You know?
No.
I look at what they like and what they promote and how they feel about other people.
Yeah.
And the synchronicity that he knew so far back in time that 5005 was going to be important.
Yeah.
You know? Well, he knew it years before it actually happened.
He knew that was going to be the grave number. Yeah.
How amazing is that?
So here's the question, Linda.
Did
he create 5005 and try and put it into the thought process of the people on the earth plane that number would be 5005? Or was it the other way round, that number was really already in the field, already in the divine concept, if you like, and he just looked at it, picked it out and said, that's going to be her grave number?
You really want me to go deep today, don't you, Mike?
Go on, give it a try.
I firmly believe there is no time.
No.
There is no time. So they, up in the ether, whoever they are, angels, archangels, ascended masters, gods, departed relatives, etc., they are tuned in to our whole timelines.
Yeah.
And now, that was plural.
Yeah.
They know every life that we're going to have had, and are having right now.
Right.
Because we can be simultaneously in more than one life right now.
Yeah.
So they know from birth until death of this Linda life. So they know that I'm going to be in grave site 5005. So that's why they know it 4 years before it happens, because to them it's concurrently now.
Right.
There's no time or space. Could have he created it himself? Through the knowledge that he knew where it was going to be, he could have. So that's why it's called that ripple back into the family where, you know, how fast did they think it was lotto numbers? So they were playing the lotto numbers. Obviously, they never won. Well, because why do you think they never won the lotto? Because he was telling them something that was important to him in spirit form.
Yeah.
In spirit form, we don't care about money. We don't care about clothes. We don't care about if we've got enough to eat or where we're going to sleep tonight. It's all material hogwash on this planet. But what was important to him was where those kids could go and grieve for their mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's all about emotional connection.
Yeah.
And that's what's coming in the next video. The emotional connection.
Okay.
As to how they connect to us through emotion, which is energy, which in heaven is classified as love.
Super. And that just, as Katerina will say, is a perfect segue into watching Christina's NDE. Here we go.
Let's go watch.
During this heart surgery, I was clinically dead for 23 minutes. And during this time, I had a near-death experience and was able to exit my body and get to know the other world, which we, or I, call heaven. It really changed my life completely. Somehow floated upwards into this other world, into heaven, where I met my grandparents from my mother's side, whom I had only known from pictures up until that point. They then took me in between them and showed me their realm, as they called it. Among other things, they also led me to a place that was a very special one to me. It was a place from which I had the possibility to look down to earth. It seemed as if the floor at this place was made from glass. I then somehow had figured out that I only needed to think of people or of one specific person, and that was exactly the person I could then look down on at this moment. Obviously, I thought of my parents and my relatives. I saw them sitting in the little waiting room outside the operating room, holding each other's hands, hoping and praying that I was going to make it. Since they knew at that point that it was a very, very critical state where it wasn't clear if I was going to make it or not. During the near-death experience, I could also look down from a bird's eye view. So I saw myself lying on the operating table with my ribcage open, and I could perceive the doctors around me. I heard them talking. They were under tension and said to each other, "Hurry up, come on, speed up a little bit. We have to get the little one through." They called me the little one. I'm not sure why. They encouraged and cheered on each other to give their all, so that they would make it. Well, they did it, luckily.
During the operation, you could not only see the doctors, but also your relatives, and you witnessed how they were doing.
It was not difficult to tell how my parents or relatives were feeling, since they were crying, laying in each other's arms. Yes, of course I could feel and see how they were doing. But in that situation, when I saw them sitting there like that, it was impossible for me to reach them. I wished and hoped that I would be able to somehow let them know that I was doing well. But my hands were tied, and unfortunately I could not reach them. I was completely fine throughout the whole near-death experience. I had no pain, and no wounds were visible. In heaven, during this experience, I was healthy. I didn't have an open chest or was bleeding anywhere. I was healthy and well. Yes, I experienced myself with a body in this situation. My body was wearing different clothes, though. Clothes that I didn't own at the time. I was wearing a floor-length light blue dress that I had never owned before. And I didn't wear any shoes. I was barefoot and had very quickly figured out why that was the case. First of all, the other people I could see there also had no shoes on. Secondly, there was a beautiful cotton wool-like soft ground beneath me, which was lukewarm, and it would have been a pity not to be able to feel that. Therefore, wearing shoes was superfluous. I have perceived my grandparents from my mother's side, just as I am perceiving you right here and now as a person with their bodies. They as well were so familiar to me, even though I haven't met them before. My grandfather saw me as a baby a few times before he died, but of course I lack any memory of that. And unfortunately, I was not able to meet my grandmother at all here on Earth. Both of them radiated so much joy and satisfaction. They were incredibly happy as I was allowed to experience them there. They looked like they did in their last pictures, before their death. They haven't aged further or changed in any other way externally. They looked healthy and happy. And that's exactly how I experienced them. And I also spoke to them normally. Well, many near-death experiencers have had a live review. I did not experience that at no time during my 23-minute-long near-death experience. No, it somehow felt like I was a visitor there. I did feel very much at home there, but nevertheless, I also had the impression that I wasn't staying there, but rather just visiting for now. The near-death experience did not end suddenly, where I was back in my body at the recovery room. No, my grandparents had led me through their realm, and at some point, they said that I have to say goodbye to them now, and that I still have a big task to fulfill, which has already begun, but is by far not completed yet. They each gave me a kiss on the forehead and said, "Fulfill your task. We will meet again in many, many years." Even though that happened 22 years ago, I still remember this moment so well. I can literally feel my grandparents until this day. In that situation, I was so emotionally confused. I remember how I cried in that moment, because on the one hand, I was totally sad to leave them again, since I was just getting to know them for the first time. On the other hand, I cried tears of joy, since I was allowed to go back down to earth to my relatives. I know for sure that I had cried, and indeed, the surgeons were able to confirm this to me sometime after the operation, since I talked to them about my near-death experience. Apparently, I cried during surgery. I didn't sob or anything, but I really had tears running down my cheek, and regarding the time, it must have fit exactly into the situation.
Yeah. You know, all the people that I see who tell their NDE stories, just look at their eyes. They are so alive once they tell this story. It's like the life comes rolling back into them. And this lady was no exception. The enthusiasm and the beauty of which she tells her encounter. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that she went a little bit deeper than a lot of other people go into.
Yeah.
I love when she was talking about how she thought about somebody and then she looked down and she could see them. That's that energetic connection that I was talking about before we started watching her show. I also love how she was saying that she could change her clothes. Because that's how I was when I was there. And then how she said she just thinks of a person, I can look down on them. So I loved her story because she does go into that depth.
Yeah.
And I love also how she spoke about she didn't want to say goodbye to the people who she was there with because, you know, I met my great-great-great-great-grandmother when I died, and I was there with her for about 18 months. And there's days when I think about who she was and, you know, her life back in the 1800s and, you know, how cool would it be if I was there helping her cook her meals in the old kitchen that she had, that she described to me and all this type of stuff. And it's sad, yes, but knowing that I'm going to get that opportunity to talk to her again, it doesn't make me upset at all because I know now all we have to do is think of somebody and we're with them. You know, I explained it in my book, how I was thinking about the duck that I saw, and then all of a sudden I was the duck.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the mountains, and then instantly I'm in the mountains. Yeah. So, you know, it's all about energetic connection, about our thoughts, and which is our consciousness, or should I say it's our awareness of what we're aware of. So if I'm aware of my grandmother, I'm now connected to her. And if I'm aware of you in Austria, I'm now connected to you, even though we're both alive in different countries.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful, powerful stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the NDE we showed of Ashley Mark some few weeks ago, she actually spoke about that she could be whoever she wanted to be, for the whole of their life or just a segment of it.
That's exactly right.
How great would that be to be Joan of Arc for 5 minutes?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So this is where we've got to ask, has Mike and has Linda already existed where we're sitting up there and we think we want to go and experience that life?
Yeah.
And is that how we have deja vu?
Yeah.
Because the Linda life, who's now inhabited by another soul who wants to live it again, or for the first time after somebody else has done this life, is that why we get deja vu? So that's a theory that I put out there. Then we look at, Rebecca Jackson. I just want to go there, Rebecca. Eternity is like a dot, all happening at once. I am now writing a book. It's called Consciousness Explained. It goes into our awareness, our perception. So it's not so much all the other conscious books that are out there. But my first chapter is called Infinity, where I explain what is infinity. So you're on the right, you're on my wavelengths there, Rebecca Jackson. Thank you so much for putting that in there, because, that's one reason why, I have to take some time off for the next 2 weeks, because I'm just so inundated. I was on NDE Diary, and my video has been blessed to have over 175,000 views.
Brilliant.
I am getting about 200 emails a day. And as I said to Mike off air earlier, I said I'm getting up at 6. I'm getting straight into my emails. And most nights I'm staying doing emails at 10 o'clock at night. So that is 12 and 4. So I'm doing 16-hour days at this point. So I must take the next 2 weeks off just to do catch up.
Yeah.
I'd love to spend some time with my daughter because, I'm on the computer. I see her walk past, so I yell out, hey, and then I don't see her for an hour and a half when she comes back and says, oh, can you just take me to school now? And she's already dressed, and I think, well, what's happened there? Because I've been so inundated doing my emails. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Linda, before we go, there's a good question of time. Time is what it is, but you're on the computer, you're busy cracking away, and you say, look, I'm just going to do this, and then I'm done. And then it's an hour later, and you think, where has that just gone?
I don't do time, Mike. I don't do time. I don't wear a watch, and it's weird. I'll go there. I think, that email just took 2 minutes. Yeah. But then I go outside and it's been half an hour. And I think, was I breathing for that half an hour? What did I do? Because it felt like just 2 minutes and I was just replying to somebody. And some of the emails I get, love them for it. But, I'm getting emails that are like 3 pages long. And I've got to sit there for 10 minutes reading it before I even press the reply button. And it's just getting to, I call it ludicrous speed. If you've ever watched Spaceballs, the movie Spaceballs. No. I'm about to go to Plaid. Yeah. As John Candy says, they've gone to Plaid. And I will tell you, in last week I did the interview with the other side, NDE. They've got 10 times as many followers as the NDE Diary. And so I'm expecting quite significant people contacting me and saying, hey, what's your thought on this? Can you help me with this? And I love trying to reply to every single one of them, Mike. One guy said to me today, he said, I hope that I'm not interrupting your time, and please don't reply if I'm not that important. So I replied to this man and I said, please never know. Please know that you are very important. Everybody is special and loved by me. No one is less than the others. So, of course, I'm going to take my time to reply to every email that I get. Yeah. If I don't, It's where I've replied and they come back and say, thank you, Linda, for that information or whatever. I don't, but at least I've read it. And I don't need to reply to, I don't have to say thanks to their thanks, you know?
No.
So, but I'm blown away by the interest that I've had. So, I've got to take control of more, stock on time of where I'm investing. So I've stopped doing readings. I'm not doing readings anymore. I'm not, I'm not even going to do email readings at this point. I'm only going to do my Sunday live where I answer questions there. And I may even change that to Mondays. So then at least on Sunday I get some time with my daughter, and taking her to like the zoo or wherever she needs to go. It just like today, because I was with the bloody Telstra, getting my internet together, which is still, 3 hours on the phone this afternoon, guys. My internet's still not working. I don't have 3 hours. Now I've got to cancel some appointments next week because I've got a technician coming here. I don't like being unreliable. I never have. And I'm really gracious is how I'm feeling, that I'm in a position where you and I, Mike, because I do want to start doing some more videos on my YouTube where I'm interviewing people, quality stories like what she had, and going deeper than just the generic, this was what happened to me. And I will give you permission to have it on our show. So then, we've always said it. If you've got an end of year story, get on our show. Yeah. Well, this may be a way of us having those stories on our show.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But I do have to have that 2 weeks off so I can just really get back on. I want to get into this next book because I've got another 5 books they want me to write yet. So, I've got to keep going with my books and keep trying to just get through it.
Yeah.
So what are these people saying? There's a couple of comments there. Rebecca, I would phone her anyway. Rebecca, you're gorgeous. And I'll make a playlist of all my favourite NDEs so you can interview those people. We'll send you the entire list when I'm done. Rebecca, I will go there. I'm asking people, there's a few questions what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who have been clinically dead for at least 3 or 5 minutes. They must have evidence to support that they were dead. I died 20 years ago. I rang the hospital on the other side of the planet and they sent me my medical files. So to me, if someone says, oh, sorry, I haven't got medical files, I can't prove this, I've got to be discerning with who's coming on. And I want ones that have had at least a life review. So then I can talk to them and ask them how go deeper than the genetic. I was standing there in front, like what I say, I was standing there in front of the 3. But for me to go, like this is where I want to take it. So Mike, so you can see in my book, I've got this picture and a lot of people have interest in this picture. Me holding the memories in my life review. That's the sort of depth that I want to go to in my interviews. How was it? What did you feel? Who was there? How long did it last? How long did it feel like it lasted? So we're talking, Sari said, that's why I don't email you, giving it away, Diane, which is lovely, but time is consuming. Yes. So, Mike, I've got to be diligent now with where I'm going because I'm getting very tired. I've hurt my knee because I'm not getting up from the computer all day, so I've got to do some exercises. This afternoon, and I think it's just pure tiredness that I'm starting to get, I boiled the kettle, and I poured the hot water over my hand. I don't know if you can see the red still on my hand, but I've just poured hot boiling water over myself tonight. That's unusual for me, so I know I'm starting to get tired. I need to step back a little bit. So, I'll take 2 weeks off, Dal. I don't like doing it, Mike. I love our show. We've been doing it now, what, a year and a half?
Longer.
Longer, yeah. I know. I think, I'm pretty sure we started in November. So it's probably 2 years that we've been going.
It's more than 2 years, so anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know. I've never got that. I have never found that email. Now, let's just go there with the synchronicity. I have never found that email where I've contacted you or you contacted me.
yeah.
So how the hell did we start doing the show? Because I can't find that email that says, hey, do you want to start doing the show?
Yeah. It's a mystery.
I know. It was meant to be, Mike, you know. I love you, darling. You know? Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, sorry saying going up and downstairs. Sorry, I do have arthritis in my knees as well as my wrist because I've done CPR on people a lot in my life. Yeah, I don't like mentioning that. Well, at least, you know, I've done CPR 6 times. 4 woke up. There you go. That just gives you a little hint about some things that I've done in my life. So 4 woke up. One lady, it was 45 minutes, so I've got really sore knees because I was leaning on concrete doing CPR for 45 minutes, and it stuffed up my knees. Yeah, so I've got to watch them. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. You know, I'm going to take a break. I'm sure Mike will still be here for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be here. Yeah.
I may just come on once in a while and just say, hey. But yeah, I've got to keep going with Tashi doing her homework as well, you know. Yeah, it's all good. Sorry, email me. That's all I'm going to say. If you can help with that, actually, yeah, because I've been doing healing and stuff on it. Hello, I got rid of my brain tumor and broken neck. I think, this is just telling me I've got to just start getting back my health a bit, you know, because all I'm doing at this point is just sitting on the computer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Well,
so
here's my drink for tonight. I'm actually drinking electrolytes because right here now in Queens, right now here in Browns Plains, it's saying it's 28 Celsius and it's 8:15 at night. So that's high 70s if you're in America, I think.
Yeah.
28 Celsius. Yeah, it's not. I've still got the AC on, so my AC is set at 25 Celsius. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, here in Austria, the time is cold o'clock, or quite cold o'clock. So all the snow's gone.
I've got hot o'clock.
Linda, I've got a dash.
I've got a dash too. I've got to go check Tashi and make sure she's doing her homework. Okay.
Everyone.
Well, guys, I'll see you in a few weeks, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If you do have a paranormal story, angel, NDE, etc., please contact Mike or myself, okay? Be on one of our shows. Hello. Okay?
Yep,
and we'll talk to you all soon, guys. Okay.
Okie doke, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.